guys, welcome back to our channel.
So today we're going to be talking about how to have healthy intimacy in your marriage while you're on deployment.
Yep, and we just wanted to make you guys aware that this is more of a Christian video. Some of the pointers that we have are Christian based, and having a healthy intimacy, I think for us, comes from a Christian point of view. And so we just want to let you guys know that, but I hope you guys enjoy this video.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so the main reason we wanted to do this video is because we really felt like in the military community, there isn't much talk of having healthy intimacy. And a lot of the times people get confused about what intimacy is and think that it's purely just sexual when it's not. And I think that kind of streams off of into why there's a lot of cheating that goes on in the military, is because when there's separation during long periods of time, the man or the woman, whoever is on deployment and whoever is at home, don't really know how to express intimacy. And so then you kind of grow distant. Maybe the guy doesn't really know how to have intimacy, and so while he's on deployment, he tries to find intimacy in different places, and so just a lot of things can happen. And so we really want to talk about how to have healthy intimacy, how to grow together, not grow apart, not do things that you're not supposed to, and stuff like that, and how we really got through deployment and how we survived that. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today, and hopefully it can help some of you guys who are on deployment to create healthy intimacy with your wife back home, and also the wife feeling connected to your significant other who is on deployment. So yeah.
So the first point that I want to talk to you guys about is just praying for each other and praying for our marriage. It was just very comforting at night, I think, for me, just to know that Brittany was praying for me. And at night when I would go to bed, I'd pray for her, because I know that distance was hard in our relationship when it came to deployment. Of course, we've been distant before, but nothing like this, to where communication was just so little. And so that's why I think prayer is very important.
Yeah, and I think prayer is also important because when you're married, Satan already really attacks you, and the enemy is so real in marriage. But whenever he can separate you, it becomes even worse. And, you know, let's be real, like temptation is so real in the military. And whenever you're separated, just in general in marriage, temptation is real. And so being able to pray for each other and have that armor for each other, so that, you know, he's not tempted by anything and he's protected from that armor, that I'm praying over him and he's praying for me and giving me armor, is just so important. And so I think remembering to pray for yourself, though, is also super important, because I know there are a lot of fears that, you know, we have of like something happening, or, you know, whatever the fear is. And so just praying for peace and comfort and praying through loneliness and all of those things is really important. I know for us, like in our marriage, just prayer has been an amazing tool to just use. And sometimes, you know, we forget to pray, and sometimes our prayer life isn't amazing, but when we do pray and we see how God comes through, it's just like an amazing thing that happens. So yeah, I would say prayer is like the #1 thing that you should do while on deployment.
Yeah, on our last deployment, the one that we just went on, we actually would pray every night over the 1MC, which if y'all don't know, that's like the loudspeaker that you get to talk into and everybody on the ship can hear. And we pray every night right around 2200. And one of the biggest things that me and some of the other guys would pray for would be just for our significant others, you know, waiting on us, and you know, we would pray for strength for them. You know, that God would just let them know that we're okay and we're thinking about them. And I think that set everybody on the ship, I think it set all of their minds at ease. Yeah. Even if they didn't believe, I had a lot of people who didn't believe, or they believed in something else, and they would just thank us for just the message that we said over the 1MC, because it was comforting to them to hear that we were praying for their spouses.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I like that.
Yeah. So the second thing that I want to talk to you guys about is just sharing your heart with one another. And I know that's kind of limited with the amount of communication that you have, but I know me and Brittany just emailed back and forth, and maybe once a month we had a phone call, but it's just so important to share your heart. And it was hard for me to do at first. It's not something that I did back when I was in high school. I didn't come from a family that shared our feelings, our emotions with each other, and so just doing that in my marriage, it took a while for me to get used to. And I know that it's very important to do that in a marriage, because just sharing your heart and opening up, that's what really creates that oneness. You can still do that on deployment even though you're thousands of miles away, just by sending an email, and sharing your heart doesn't just necessarily mean saying how are you, what's up, what are you doing today. It's really opening up and just not scraping the surface, but digging deep, and that's important, I think.
Yeah, and I think that is really what creates, other than prayer, it creates the most intimacy, because you're really reaching that inner heart level of what are the things that you're struggling with, how can I help you, what battles are you facing today, of anxiety or whatever, and how can I come alongside of you and encourage you through those. And so creating again that oneness, like he was saying, of these are your struggles, but I'm gonna walk alongside you and encourage you in those, and he's gonna walk alongside of me and encourage me. And so even if we do email, like he would tell me the things that he was struggling with, and I would tell him the things that I was struggling with, of loneliness and stuff. And so it's just super important to do that, because I think that really creates a lot of intimacy, further than sexual stuff, because I think for us as women especially, it always starts at the heart, and then we can get into the sexual stuff. And for men it's a little bit different, but still, like, we both need that heart fulfillment to get to the other stuff. And I think that's what marriage is really all about, is getting to the heart stuff. And so having those heart conversations is super important. And even like now that we're home, we do this thing, we haven't done it in a while, but we do need a need time where we sit down and we just like lock eyes. And it's kind of weird at first, but like you stare into each other's eyes and you like talk about things. And so yeah, it's just like a pretty cool practice. But yeah, sharing your heart is super important.
So this next one's actually my favorite, and that's the next point that I want to bring up is doing devotionals with each other while you're on deployment. And that's definitely the third best thing that you can do as a married couple while you're on deployment. And even though we can't read the books next to each other and do our devotionals next to each other, it was always nice being able to chit chat with Brittany, saying, what are you reading in the Bible? What devotional are you working on now? And every night before I'd go to bed, I'd whip out my Bible or my devotional or whichever book that I'd read that night, and I'd read one devotional or one chapter, and that really just set my mind at ease when I was going to bed, because there's so much stress happening throughout the day, standing watch, doing, your job and then some, or maybe fixing a casualty or whatever the case may be, getting yelled at for something. Being able to just close my eyes, pray, and then, do my devotional before I go to bed was one of the biggest stress relievers, and it definitely grew my heart for God. And Brittany has this good triangle thing that she keeps sharing with me, is a triangle looks like this, and if this is you and this is your husband or your wife and the top is God, you got to grow closer to God to grow closer together and build that oneness. And reading devotionals in the Bible every night before I went to bed definitely helped me along with that.
Yeah, and we did one recently that I think I shared with you guys on Instagram, where it's the struggles or something of a millennial marriage. And we did that one when he got back, but it was so good just going through devotionals together and growing together. And like he said, growing closer to God in order to grow closer together. And so, yeah, I really love just doing devotionals and reading together. It's important, of course, to do those separately, because you want to grow separately so you can grow closer together. But also doing them together is super important, because then you have something to talk about again that's something deeper than just, what are you doing or how are you, but you're talking about things that spiritually affect your heart, which is really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one we love to do, and I don't think we did it as much, but it is play games. When Connor would go underway or he would go somewhere, we would actually play Battleship, where if we would Skype, he would have his battleship and I would have my battleship, and then he would guess what I had, and the whole game or whatever. And so that was really fun for us. And this past deployment, I was writing him a letter, and I actually did Hangman, and so he would send me back the actual one. He never got the letter. I don't think he ever got the letter, right?
No, yeah, they didn't send it.
It got like lost in the mail, so he never got it. But it's just cool, like playing those games and like having fun with each other and like being able to laugh, because I think I put like a really funny one. I can't remember what I put, but it would have been funny if he got it. But yeah, so I think that would have been cool.
Along with that, something that I you know, doesn't kind of go with this, but it's something that needs to be mentioned, is if you look it up, you can email from the ship any phone number, right? So you can email, text a phone number. So if you don't want to keep emailing back and forth, like me emailing to Brittany's email, it would kind of take a little longer because she doesn't check her email as much as she checks her text messages. So I think it's like her number at AT&T dot whatever, and I can email her from the ship and it would send a text message to her phone. And so just keep that in mind. I know that you could also play Battleship that way, is like just have your Battleship out and,
cool,
you know, yeah, and on the desk, and, you know, send a text, an email text to, you know, your spouse saying, you know, B4 or whatever, and she can have hers out, and y'all can play that way as well if you don't have Skype while you're on deployment, because I was only really able to Skype when we hit ports, which wouldn't be like, you know, for 45 days or 30 days or
rare.
something. So if that's something that you like doing, you like playing games, do that. That might make it a little easier. And so that's a good one. We like playing games, and we wish we would have done more of that on deployment, because that would have been definitely a good time to spend with your wife. You know, not just asking simple questions like how are you, but actually sitting down and playing a game with each other. That could be fun.
That would be.
Yeah. So the last point that I want to make with y'all is care packages are like an extreme deal. Like every time we would get mail, it would kind of be frustrating if, you know, I didn't hear my name being called, like, oh, Connor, you have mail. Which I got mail pretty much every time, because, you know, Brittany's awesome and she sent me care packages like every time. But a care package, it can definitely build a lot of intimacy, because when I would open a care package and I would see just how much care was put into it, how intricate it was, and just how thoughtful it was, that care package, and she built some really amazing care packages. You know, in my mind I would just think, man, you know, she spent hours on this thing. You know, that it was all decorated, it was all color themed, it was all, you know, I think she gave me a 4th of July one, which was all like, you know, American flags and stuff like that, and it was just really awesome, and that to me just showed me that she cared about me while I was on deployment, and she was thinking about me, and she took time away from whatever she was doing to, you know, make something for me. And even though I don't have the supplies to build Brittany a care package from the ship, it was just a really awesome thing to get, and I knew that she was caring about me, and it was, I think it built intimacy in our relationship, you know, throughout deployment, because, you know, one, it gave us some stuff to talk about the next time that I would call her, or, you know, it would be a reminder. I would rip off one of the box
folds.
flaps, yeah, because she would decorate all the flaps too, and whichever one I liked the best and was the most meaningful, I would rip that off, and I stuck it in my drawer, and I saved all those, so I have like 6 or 7 flaps that I'll be hanging up in my office just to remind me how much she cared about me during that time.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the tips that we wanted to share with you guys to help create intimacy.
One reason why we're making this video is so, you know, y'all can be equipped with the knowledge of how to create intimacy in some other means other than, you know, sexually, because when you're on deployment and you have that distance, that's not something that you know, really have the luxury of doing, unfortunately. But fortunately, there's a lot of other things that you can do to fill up that cup, and with the knowledge of that, I think that will help grow your relationship even more.
Yeah, because relationships are not based on anything sexual. They should purely be based on, you know, if you have a relationship with God, then your relationship with God, and then your intimacy with each other based on your own heart. And I think that that's what a lot of people don't understand, is that they start their relationship off sexually, and then when it comes to deployments, they don't know how to handle that separation because it's based on the sexual physical contact. And honestly, like, whenever you have a deeper heart connection, you have a deeper sexual relationship. And a lot of people, again, don't understand that. And so hopefully some of these tips can help you guys and help you guys have a good marriage and help you guys through the temptations and through the enemy attacking marriages and, you know, stuff like that. So
just, you know, just remember that, you know, making love with your significant other is really a gift that God has given you. But if you think about it, God created intimacy well before He gave married couples the gift of, you know, making love or you know, being sexual with each other. And so intimacy was alive before that gift was even given. So it's possible. So just remember
with our
that.
Intimacy with God.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a little bit weird and a little bit more than we usually talk about, but I've been getting this question a lot, and so I felt like I finally kind of needed to address it in a way. And so hopefully it kind of helps you in a little bit of ways, and you got a male's perspective, because I know
I know some guys out there are gonna be like, oh, Connor, why'd you say that? But it's it'll really grow your relationship. So
you'll
thank me later, I promise.
And I didn't want to just be like a woman telling you, because I mean, I know only so much, and he's actually a man with men feelings. He's the one that was on deployment, and so he knew the temptations and the struggles, and so I wanted him to be in this video with me, and he did a great job, and I hope he gave you some awesome tips. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we love you guys so much, and we'll see you guys in our next video.
Bye, guys.